Donald Trump's campaign is on the verge of collapse, and things are about to get that much worse as a huge group of donors, with one particular donor making a huge endorsement of Kamala Harris, ready to line up behind the vice president and support her when Donald Trump is really wavering and kind of imploding in the worst way possible at this moment. His campaign is way behind in cash, way behind in the polls, and way behind in every other metric. And billionaire Mark Cuban just made it all that much worse for Donald Trump. But we're going to get into that in just a second. I wanted to provide a little bit of context on Cuban's anti-Trump rhetoric in the past, what he's talked about, his positions on Trump. Cuban has always been a person who has spoken out against Donald Trump, but in this Republican primary this year, he backed Nikki Haley, giving her his support, saying that he even voted for her in the Texas primary. But it was clear, Mark Cuban said, that if it came down to Trump versus Biden, he would be backing Biden. But we didn't know yet where he'd be falling in terms of this new race. But Mark Cuban has answered that question along with many other donors. And before we get to that, I just wanted to show a resurfaced tweet of Mark Cuban's mocking Trump, and then we're going to talk about his big endorsement of Kamala Harris. Cuban said on Twitter, "I pay what I owe. Tomorrow I will wire transfer to the IRS $288 million. This country has done so much for me. I'm proud to pay my taxes every single year. Tag a former president that you know doesn't." Yes, calling Donald Trump out for his history of not paying his taxes, and that is one of the many reasons why Mark Cuban is going ahead, along with many other venture capitalists and big dollar donors like himself, getting behind Kamala Harris. And I wanted to read an article detailing this huge endorsement that Mark Cuban is making that is just shaking up Donald Trump. More than 400 venture capitalists and tech leaders have pledged their support for Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Entrepreneurs Mark Cuban and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman are among the growing list of business leaders who signed a letter published on a new VCs for Kamala website. "We spend our days looking for, investing in, and supporting entrepreneurs who are building the future," the letter says. "We are pro-business, pro-American dream, pro-entrepreneurship, and pro-technological progress. We also believe in democracy as the backbone of our nation. We believe that strong, trustworthy institutions are a feature, not a bug, and that our industry and every industry would collapse without them." It continues, "That is what's at stake in this election. Everything else we can solve through constructive dialogue with political leaders and institutions willing to talk to us." Not only has Cuban come out against Donald Trump in a fairly significant way through the course of his entire political career, but we now see him not only backing Kamala Harris with his support, but lining up other huge dollar donors to get behind what has already been a historic fundraising campaign for Kamala Harris. And it's not just that Donald Trump is seeing entrepreneurs come out against him and then pledge donations to Kamala Harris, but he is losing some of his biggest donors, some of the people that he was counting on to be the backbone, the financial backbone, at least, of his campaign. And one of those donors was Elon Musk, who had previously pledged a $45 million a month donation to Donald Trump's campaign, which he then pulled back in shocking and humiliating fashion for Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't subscribe to the cult of personality. And it's not just billionaire donors like Elon Musk who are abandoning and really running away from Donald Trump right now. Famous podcaster Joe Rogan, whose audience is more right-wing leaning and certainly male-dominated, said on his podcast earlier this week that he thinks Kamala Harris is going to be beating Donald Trump in this year's election. Let's check it out.
Do not know if this is true. See if you can find that, because really shouldn't say that about our future president.
Yeah,
She's going to win.
No, she's not.
She can win.
She absolutely can win.
That is a huge blow to Donald Trump. Like I said, Joe Rogan's audience is primarily male, a little bit more conservative leaning. And so for them to hear that their guy, the person that they're backing, and usually backing because they believe Donald Trump is strong, but this person that they look up to, some of his audience, thinking that he's going to lose, is just another blow to Donald Trump, and it absolutely humiliates him. And as we've talked about on this show, it's not just Democrats who are excited about Kamala Harris or independents realizing that Donald Trump should not be president and starting to move over to her. No, we're not just seeing Democrats and independents, but Republicans, in fact, are starting to move away from Donald Trump into Kamala Harris. And it's not in 1 or 2%. We're seeing as much as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% of Republicans in some polls are moving over to Kamala Harris. And it's ads like this from the Republican voters against Trump that are making the case.
America stands at a crossroads, and the choice this November couldn't be more clear. Do we elect the prosecutor or the felon?
Before I was elected vice president, I was an elected attorney general, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before that. As a prosecutor, I specialized in child sexual abuse cases. Well, Trump was found liable for committing sexual abuse. As Attorney General of California, I took on one of our country's largest for-profit colleges that was scamming students. My office filed suit against Corinthian colleges and put it out of business. Donald Trump ran a for-profit college.
We're going to teach you better than the business schools are going to teach you. It's going to be a shorter process. It's not going to involve years and years of your life.
That was forced to pay $25 million to the students it scammed. And as an attorney general, I held the big Wall Street banks accountable for fraud. We have delivered to California $18 billion in relief for California's homeowners. Donald Trump was just found guilty of fraud on 34 counts.
A criminal like Donald Trump must never be allowed to occupy the Oval Office. Vote the prosecutor, not the felon.
The choice in this election is clear, and it's good to see people finally waking up to it. This election, as much as it is about two candidates that we are choosing from, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, it's also about the future that we want when these two people aren't in politics anymore. And for Kamala Harris, hopefully that's 8 years from now when she's finished 2 terms as president. And for Donald Trump, hopefully he's out of politics as soon as tomorrow. So that would be the hope. But it's not just about these two individuals who very clearly are contrasted in the most distinct ways. You have the career prosecutor who has battled the corrupt and criminals like Donald Trump in Kamala Harris. And then you have Donald Trump, who is a career criminal and completely corrupt, someone with diagnosable personality disorders, someone so demented and dangerous that they should never be anywhere near the Oval Office again. It's a very clear contrast. But then we can start to talk about the future. What do these candidates want if they're elected? For Donald Trump, it's to go back to the chaos of times before, during his presidency, which we already saw. A complete failure of a record, a mismanaging of the COVID-19 pandemic, a colossal bout of chaos every single day, it felt like. That was the Trump presidency. He wants to go back, and not just back to that time, but back to a time where women weren't in control of their reproductive freedoms, where fewer Americans enjoyed equal civil liberties. That's what Donald Trump wants. Well, Kamala Harris is looking forward to a time where we continue to invest in infrastructure, lower prescription drug costs, lower the cost of childcare, build a better future. And so while we do have the contrast of the two candidates, we also have a contrast of the vision for the future that Kamala Harris has and the desire to go back and to attack that Donald Trump has. And that's why we're seeing these endorsements from people like Mark Cuban and huge lines of donors getting behind Kamala Harris and dropping out of Team Trump. It's why this is happening right now, and Kamala Harris is surging. And it's great to see. And I am excited that this momentum behind Kamala Harris continues to build. And if you are as well, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and join what we are building on this channel. Join the momentum of this channel. It would really mean a lot to me. We have already built such an incredible community so fast, and I am excited to continue to build it with you. And as always, make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. It goes a long way and would really mean a lot to me. And until next time, I'll see you soon.